Hey guys, welcome back. Today is going to be a chit chat, get ready with me video, and I'm going to tell you why I'm pretty sure my kids can see ghosts. So, there's a little bit of a backstory here before we can dive into the supernatural element of it. My grandparents, my maternal grandparents, so my mother's parents, wow, how many times can I say parents in a sentence? They adopted me. So I always lived with my grandparents. And so when I turned 12, it had been in the works for quite some time, but they officially adopted me when I was 12. So when I refer to my mom or my dad, I'm really talking about my maternal grandmother or grandfather. When I was 23, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but my father was diagnosed with cancer on Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas. The cancer spread very quickly. So his cancer had started off sort of in the lymph node areas and then spread throughout his body. So his kidneys began to shut down and they had to immediately take him off of the chemotherapy. There's different kinds. There's CHOP and there's CHOMP, and this was 15, 16 years ago, so I don't know if there's been progress in that respect. So I don't know at this point if that's still relevant or not. But it was at the time. And whichever one it was that they applied, I think it was the CHOMP, it was the M in it, I can't remember what it stands for now. I used to know what all the letters stood for. His body couldn't tolerate it. So basically, he was diagnosed in December and he died in July the following year. The world lost something special when he died. It really did. And one of my biggest regrets is that he's not there to meet his well, biologically his great-grandchildren, but my children, because I know how much they would mean to him and I know how much they would love him. Although I've never had encounters or sightings or felt chills or anything of that nature, I have on occasion had dreams of my dad. And I like to think that that is actually us meeting up in dreamland. And those dreams are typically him and I sitting at a restaurant table and just chatting about life. Like I'm just updating him on what's going on. And so it brings me a good amount of comfort because when I wake up, when I can recall those dreams, it feels like we've had a visit. Hello, up close. Camera overheated as it does, and I did one eye. Gonna do the other one. Okay. I'm not gonna treat this like a tutorial because if I try to explain what I'm doing and try to do the chit-chatty part, we're gonna be here forever. So just watch and learn. Okay. There were no indications with my daughter Aspen that she was seeing anything. Until Christmas Day, when she was a year and a half old. I took her upstairs into our bedroom. So she is sitting on my bed, and all of a sudden, without any sort of warning, just swivels her head over to the window, looks up, waves at the corner of our room, and says, "Hi, Papa." To which my mother-in-law, who was with me, quickly backed out of the room, so thanks for that one, leaving me there alone with that. And she was quite happy. She wasn't upset. She just, "Hi, Papa." So it was a one-off. It was weird. It was a little disconcerting, but it was a one-off. Until it wasn't. It quickly got to the point, because I would typically read her, or Barry would read her bedtime stories in our room, and then we'd carry her into her room for bedtime. And it became a nightly nightly routine, and it was always in the same spot, always in the corner, upper corner near the ceiling. Hi, Papa. I remember being on the bed with her and with Barry, and all of a sudden she is sitting up, looking in the corner, going, ticka, 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 and pretending to tickle whatever it was that she was seeing. And then she would pause and then kind of scrunch in as though somebody was tickling her and giggle her face off, and nobody was touching her. And it got to the point with her, though, that she started having more extreme reactions. So she would come in, she would say, hi, Papa, but then you could see her get scared. There was one evening, Barry and I were both in the room, and I'm glad that he witnessed this because I can't make this stuff up, but he got to see it firsthand. She was turning her back to the window side of our room where Papa typically was. She was turning her back to it, burying her head into me because I was lying on the bed with her. And then she would look over and sort of count. Of course, she could only count, I think, up to like 7 or 8 at that point. But she was pointing and counting. And it seemed as though it wasn't just Papa that she was seeing. Now she was seeing multiple whatevers. And it was scaring her. And at that point, that's when I started to get really concerned about it. So I spoke with a friend of mine who is a medium. I don't know that she would necessarily classify herself as that, but for lack of a better word, that's what I'm going to refer to her as. And she came over just to ensure, to get a sense of the room, all of that kind of thing. She was explaining that oftentimes if spirits find somebody who is in-tuned or can pick up on their presence, they want to communicate and they just sort of flood that portal, if you will. And she felt that that might be what was happening with Aspen and that it was overwhelming her. So she gave us some tips on what we could do to close that down. And after that, we didn't have a problem with it anymore. One of the last interactions that I witnessed her having was in her bedroom, which was unusual because it was typically always in our bedroom. I think I might have asked her if she saw Papa G. And she says, oh, he's right over there, and pointed in the corner. She says, along with that guy. I'm sorry, that guy? She says, yeah, Thomas. Which, I mean, the only Thomas she knew really was Thomas the Tank Engine. However, circling back to the beginning of my story where I said that I was adopted by my maternal grandparents, my bio mother, oh, I can't do this from this far away. My bio mother had a brother, and that would make him my uncle, which was obviously the son of my dad / grandfather. It's very confusing, but just like draw a picture or something and you'll get it. Anyways, his name was Thomas, and he died of a brain aneurysm when I was 10. Oh, frick. I had never talked to Aspen about Thomas. I had never shown her pictures. I had never, it just had never come up because I just felt it was too remote of a concept for her at that age. So she was seeing my dad with his son, Thomas. And all along with all of this, it really did bring me comfort. And, when it was just Papa or Papa and Thomas, Aspen never seemed perturbed or upset by it or scared. But it just brought me a lot of comfort to know that even though he never got to meet them in person, he was still able to meet my daughter in some way or another. And until that point, like I said, I had never really believed in supernatural things, and Barry even less so. Where I was sort of like, there might be something, who knows. Barry was like, no, there's most definitely not. But having witnessed our daughter especially the tickling episode and the counting, he now believes. So, what spurred this whole get ready with me video is, it's happening again with Bennett. A couple nights ago, he woke up at 11 o'clock at night and did not go back to sleep again until about 2:30. It's super fun. However, that's not the point of the story. Barry left the room and went downstairs to try to sleep on the couch because Bennett doesn't always like to sleep when we're in the room with him. His crib's in our room. And I had him on the bed with me thinking maybe I could cuddle him to sleep. Well, he was lying on his back on our bed, and he kept craning his head back so that he could see his crib, but the ceiling above it. And he would just wave at it and say hi over and over and over again. And I am convinced that he is seeing the same thing that Aspen did. So I just eventually said, hey, Grandpa, this is not the time. And I honestly, within maybe 10 seconds of me saying that, Bennett stopped waving and stopped saying hi to the ceiling. So I am 100% convinced that my children see my dad and that he sees them. It is just such a wonderful, wonderful thing. I don't know the word to use. It's just so wonderful to know that even though he's not here in person, they have still interacted with him and have got to experience how loving he is. So there is the final eye look. So to summarize, if you had told me 10 years ago that one day I would be a firm believer, if not in ghosts, at least in spirits, probably would have giggled at you. However, having seen both of my children now react and interact the way that they have, I really have no doubt that there is more to this world than living and dying. There is a beyond of some sort, whether that's heaven, whether that's purgatory, I don't know. It brings me so much comfort, and it has been, particularly with Aspen, it was so consistent with her, and it happened at an age where it wasn't just creativity or imagination. And with Bennett, he's 13 months old now. He's not going to know to be like, let's yank mom's chain. He is too young still to even have imaginary friends. Like, he doesn't grasp that concept, but it has happened. I would say I've witnessed it. Certainly the other night was the most interaction I've seen him have, but I've seen him do this at least 3 times now, and Barry's seen him do it a couple of times as well. So this is again another consistent thing occurring with him. I had wondered whether or not Bennett would do the same thing, and seeing him do it at around, he's a little bit younger than what Aspen was when she started, but it just brings so much comfort to me. Like, it makes my heart so happy to know that he still gets to experience the love that my dad would no doubt have given to him. So that is all I have to say. If you've ever experienced anything like this, or have seen your children or other children sort of interact with something that you couldn't quite see, I would love to hear your stories down below. At any rate, that is all I have to say today. I thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just put goodness into the world. Just be kind. I learned today that some asshole, or plural, had broken into a local zoo. It's called the Elmvale Zoo, and it's like maybe a 20-minute drive from where I live, just outside of the city of Barrie. And it's just this lovely, like, family-owned zoo. You can touch giraffes, like, it's amazing. And they have a nice little selection of animals. The animals always look really well cared for. And some asshole broke into it and stole a baby gibbon, stole a tortoise, and stole a lemur as well. And to see them, the zoo staff, put their video out pleading for the return of these animals, it broke my heart. It literally made me feel sick to my stomach. And to think that there are people who can do something like that. I'm gonna go ahead and guess they don't know how the fuck to take care of those animals. I can't even let my mind go down the road of why, like what their motivation was or what they've done with these animals. I cannot, it's too much for me. But to know that there's just that kind of badness in the world is so upsetting. And obviously there is badness, and we see it every day if we watch the news, which I have long given up doing. So I think it's important for us to try to combat that. The opposite of darkness is light, and the opposite of bad is goodness, and goodness can win over badness, and it's up to us to put as much kindness out there as possible. So small acts of kindness go a long way, and they all add up. And if you have pets, give them an extra little hug tonight, because there are some people desperately missing their animals, and I'm sure those animals are desperately missing their home as well. So on that very sad and very upsetting note, I apologize, but I'm going to end this video. I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.